Video of the demonstration of my final project. In this project, I'm going to use two APIs, the Twitch API and the SpurStack API. The Twitch API use ORS 2.0 access token to access resources. I will use authorization code grant flow to do three-legs authorizations. Here is project description. So let's run our code. Terminal. HTTPS localhost. First, the user will input their Twitch account username on the website. Then our server will ask for their authorization to access their Twitch account resources. After they log in their account, we will provide the username to the Twitch API and ask for the API to give us back the user's ID and the followed broadcaster name. When we receive the broadcaster name, we will provide it to the second API, SpurStack. The SpurStack will do real-time Google search using the full information we offered and give us back the related URLs about this broadcaster. And finally, we will display these URLs to our user on our website. So here the broadcaster name is Yanko. So let's click the URL to check the displayed result. Yeah, here is some URLs about the Yankos. And here is the sequence diagram of my project. There are four entities: the SpurStack API, the user, serve, and Twitch API. First, the user opens the browsers and send GET request to localhost 3000. The server will receive and respond back 200 OK and main.html, which is a website with a form for the user to fill out. After the user fill out the form with their Twitch account username, it sends a GET request to localhost 3000/search username. As the server receives the GET request, it will parse the URL to get the username and generate a random variable state to represent this request. The variable state and the username will be saved into username states array. Then the user will respond 302 and redirect to the location https id.twitch.tv/ors2/authorize with the client ID and scope and state, response type, and redirect URI. We have it in the credential JSON file. The browser sees 302 and will create a new GET request to Twitch API, forwarding all these variables. And here is a new GET request. As the Twitch API receives the GET request, if the user has not logged in, it will respond 200 OK and send back the log form. User will log in and then the API will ask for the user's authorization to allow our project to access their account resources, and the user say yes. If the user has already logged in, it can directly jump to these steps. The Twitch API will send 302 and temporarily direct to the received code. The browser sees 302 and create a new GET request with this URL containing the authorization code and the states. The server will parse the URL to get the states and use the states as key to look up the username in the array we just saved. The server will do post request forwarding client ID, client secret, grant type code, and redirect URL to the Twitch API. The Twitch API will send back the SES token and response 200 OK. Now, since we already have the SES token, we can get resource we want from the Twitch API. The server will send a GET request /helix/users to use this API get user, and here is the data the API response back. So we just want to use the user ID. So the Twitch API will receive this get result and response back 200 OK and also user ID. Here we get the user ID. We create a new GET request to localhost. Here is API. Both of this is API.twitch.tv and /helix/channels/followed and use this API. Get followed channels. And here is so the user ID type is strings when the query part is required. So that's why we need to use the last step to get the user ID. And here is the response results the get followed channels provide. Here is the data. It has the broadcast ID, broadcast name. So we want this part, broadcast name. We will take out the broadcast name, and the Twitch API will respond to 200 OK and the broadcast name back. By the way, both of these two GET requests have the header, authorization and client ID. Authorization and client ID, just as the API shows example request. Authorization Barry and this part is the access token, and client ID is like right here, my client ID. Okay, so now we get the broadcaster name, and as long as the server gets the broadcaster name from the Twitch API, the server will send the GET request to the Spark Stack API, the second API, which is a public API. We don't need to get authorization. And the query part of this GET request has two variables. So let's see. One is like we use the search. So one is the access key, and when you sign up this API, it will provide the API access key right here. And the second one is the query. This part we just parse the broadcaster name into the value. And here is the result, the organic result. The stir stack API provide. And we take out the URL, just some URL related to this broadcaster. So we take out this URL and display this URL to our user on our website. Let's have a look at the sequence diagram again. So the API responds 200 OK and organic results our URL back to the server, and the server will will display URL and respond 200 OK to respond this get method. Get the reserved code to the user. So that's all the sequence diagram demonstrate. Then let's go through the code. First, call the https.create server. Here is the option right here, because when I choose which API to use, it seems that some API cannot work with HTTP server. So I change it to HTTPS. It is with encryption and verification. So there are right here like a private key and also certification files to help me create HTTP servers. HTTP server. And the server listen for the request event and the callback function connection handler, and we have if-else statement. If we listen to a request for the root directory of our set, it will open a main.html that the user can fill out their username and right here main.html. And after clicking search, the right here action search and the slash search and the data will be appended to the URL. Data is just like the username. So then we will move to the slash search. Since the URL appended with the search slash search and also the data, so we will parse the URL to get the username. And if the username is none, and will return 404 not found. And let the username states equals user. So we will have a username states array right here to store the states. So if in this array there is no username and the username state stores the object state and the username. It's a pair. So if there is a username equals entrance their username, so it will give us the state, and which represents the request. If there is no request, so we will randomly generate a state. And this is to check whether the username is already be searched. If not, randomly generate a state and push the username and state into the username states array. And then call the redirect to Twitch, passing the state, and function redirect to Twitch. First, we got the authorization endpoint from the website right here, and as we can see, we have some primary parameters is required: client ID, redirect URI, response type, scope, and even states is optional, but because we just generate the random states, so we also pass it into the query. We also pass the states to call the redirect to the Twitch. So we will have a credential JSON file to, because we will use these variables multiple times, so we have this credential JSON file to store these informations. And we stringify the client ID, scope, states, response type, and redirector URL, just like the client ID equals to the client ID right here, and client scope equals to this, response type equals to this, and so on. So we'll append them to the authentication endpoint. So we will got this location. So we're gonna redirect to the Twitch authorization page at this location. And the user need to log in and authorize. Then the Twitch API will redirect to the redirect URI, which is /receive code, /receive code we catch right here. It will contain in this URL, it will contain the code and the state. So we use URL.query in the query to parse this URL to get the code and state. Then we pass the code into the function send access token request, and send access token request. In this function, we exchange the code and access token by send post request with header content type, this value. And the endpoint is http id.twitch.tv auth2/auth2 and /token. We construct the post data containing client ID, client secret, grant type, code, and redirect URL. So we call the HTTP request, passing the token endpoint and the option, set the method post and the header, this one. For the response, it's going to be a stream type, so we call the stream to message function, and it will have a callback. It will have a callback function, receive access token. After the response is received, we will get the access token. So we have the access token right now, so we pass it into the function send get user ID request. So we in this send get user ID request function, we print the SAS token to check we do have the we do receive the SAS token, and we call this API get user API. So we need to get message. We need to send a get request to this endpoint. So the user ID endpoint is /helix/user, and we have the option set the method to get, and the headers, just as the document shows, the headers we have the authorization Barry, and this is a access token, and client ID is our client ID. So Barry access token, client ID, and we have the HTTPS request passing the user ID endpoint options, and also the stream to message function, just as the previous one. And there is a callback function receive user ID response. And in this function, first we just check the body we got, and we parse the body to the data. And in the data, it's a list. So data 0 is the first element in the list, a question mark ID. So we got the data, the first element of the data list is ID. I think I have the code right here. So this is the data we got, and ID is just the username, user ID. So we just need the this ID. So the user ID equals the data m0 question mark dot ID, and we also print out the user ID right here to check what we got. And since we have this user ID, we call the send get follow channel request. We pass in the access token, the user ID, cause in this API get follow channels, we need to use this user ID to check what broadcaster he or she followed. So we need to pass in this parameter, and we have the get, also have the get request to this endpoint. So just as the get user ID request is also the get method, and right here we have the channel followed endpoint, and we stringify the user ID and appending them to the endpoint, channel follow endpoint. And options, method get, headers, authorization, bear, access token, client ID, just as the document showed. And we have the HTTPS request passing the channel followed endpoint URI and options, and also use the stream to message function. And here is a receive follow channel response callback function. And in this function, we just got this response. The example response, we got this data right here in the body. So as a first step, we just console log the bodies, and we parse the body. Yeah, that's the get follow channel API give us back the data. So we just need the broadcaster name. So it's also in the data list. So data element 0. So if we just get the first broadcaster name, so maybe the user follows many other broadcaster, but in this project we just got the first broadcaster name. So we got the broadcaster name, and we double check the broadcaster name. We got the actual broadcaster name right here. Okay, so through the Twitch by the Twitch API, finally we got the broadcaster name. So we want to use this broadcaster name to use the second API to search this broadcaster. So that's why we have the function Google search result. We pass in the broadcaster name. So we have used the second API Sparse-Arc endpoint. So let's see their document. The endpoint is api.sparse-arc.com/search. Yeah, so the endpoint and then the query part. So we have the access key API equals API key and query equals broadcaster name. And we stratify access key and query. Let RUI equals this one, and we append them to the Sparse-Arc endpoint. And we have the get method, options set get method, and call HTTP. Oh, right here, so it's HTTP request. So it's not HTTPS. So here is HTTP.get request, and we pass in the Sparse-Arc endpoint URI and options, and just like the other previous functions, we call the stream to message, and the callback function receives the search result response. And in this receive search result response functions, so we parse the body to the organic results, and we just print out the organic result to check what the data we received, and just like this. So as we can see, there are many elements in the organic result. So we want the URL right here. We want to all of these URLs. So we have the for loop for let I equals 0, I less than less, and let the URL result equals organic results I and $URL. So by this, we just display all the URLs to the user. So that's all the code demonstrate. Let me see what else I should do. So run the program. Okay. Facilitate multiple requests. Okay, so let me have 2 new incognito windows. Node.js, HTTPS. HTTPS. use two different username. And the other one, so the first one we use the username SISUMM, so we got the broadcaster name Yankos, so we have the URL related to Yankos. So let me check. You can see there are some informations about Yankos. And the other one, we use the username another username, so we can see that the broadcaster name for the second one is Cedral. So let me see. It's his YouTube channel, and let me click something. Yeah, we can display his channel. Okay, so I think my server can handle the multiple requests. First API is received before the second one is requested. These two API are synchronized because only if we have the Twitch API result, the broadcaster name received, then we are going to Google search it. Otherwise, there is nothing we will search. And what did you cache? How long is it? I think there is no resource cache in my project. So that's all for the demonstration of my project. Thank you.